Hello, everyone. There we go. Had to get the right audio on. Hello. Let me start my camera. How's everybody doing this evening? Hopefully you're doing well. If you're new to the channel, hello, hi, and welcome. We appreciate you being here tonight. Aw, thanks, Mandy. She's here to listen for a minute. And do you have to work this evening? I didn't even see if anybody was going live tonight, really. Yeah, so thank you guys. We hit 9,000 subscribers. I convinced 9,000 of y'all to hang out with me. I don't know how I did it, but we did it. Can you believe that? When 2 days before, I was just saying oh my gosh, we just got 8,800. That's great. Yeah, we're up over 1,000 members. I mean, over 1,000 subscribers in the last month. So can't beat that. Oh, thanks ATS News. Oh, that's so sweet. It's getting gray. There's grays in there. They're hidden for now. Oh, you have the bartend. Oh, that's even better though. I used to be a bartender. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. I was a bartender during the day. People don't drink during the day. They should. You know. So the money wasn't there. I was working at a restaurant. They got me to go behind the bar to do it, and it was the worst. I shouldn't have done it because I didn't make any money. Because who goes to a Red Lobster, this was in my 20s, and goes and drinks at the bar at 11 o'clock in the morning? Nobody. Oh, Rhonda's been off the internet, but she's made it back. Well, welcome back. And I'm going to put the link in the chat if anyone wants to join. My hair's falling out all over the keyboard today. I don't know why, but it is. If you guys are praying folk or whatever you guys do to, make people feel better, say a little prayer for Summer's brother. She's one of our mods. She had to leave the chat last night. Her brother had 2 heart attacks and now he has to have surgery. So I'm praying for her. And I'm sorry I didn't see that last night. The chat was just so busy and so fast, and I'm so sorry. And I was reading. That was the thing. If I wasn't reading, I would have totally caught it. But since I was reading, that's what I get for reading. So your brother can blame it on me if he wants. You've had grays for a long time. So my niece did. My niece had grays starting when she turned 24. And they look so good. She let them grow in. They look like highlights. She's beautiful. Beautiful girl. Beautiful with her grays. Mine are just scattered right here. And then I got a couple going in right here. So I'm what's happening? But it's been 15 years since I've colored my hair, so I'm due. But since everyone's kind of getting in here, getting settled, don't forget to hit the like button. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel membership, it's floating in the chat. We'd love to have you. We're trying to reach 10,000 Titans over here. We're so close. We're getting there. We're climbing up. So if you guys would like to subscribe to the channel, we'd love to have you. We do talk true crime daily here. Let's see. Yeah, so just, always hit the like. Always say that. Of course. I should embrace them, but I die. I'm going to dye mine. I'm going to. I'm actually, before we get started, since, why not? I think I'm going to get my eyebrows tinted. Because I haven't been wearing makeup. I just gave up on that. It's summer. But I think I'm going to get them tinted because I feel like I don't know. I just feel like I would feel better. Also, have you guys, before we get into tonight's case, have you guys been watching the Submarine or the Sub-Missile or whatever? No, it's not Sub-Missile, but I'm going to call it a submarine because I can't remember the exact word for it. But have you guys been following that? Because the 5 people that are inside of it, they have 10 hours left of oxygen, they're saying. Whew, it's giving me anxiety. So we might do a live on it. They're calling it Titanic sub, yeah. Gave up on makeup when the pandemic started. I did the opposite. I bought a bunch of makeup. And I was getting makeup sent to me. I was like, why do you need this much makeup, girl? But I didn't wear it one night. And Eddie was in here and he's like, oh, you don't need makeup, Tanya. And ever since then, I haven't worn it. Sub-Missile. That's what it is, Harlow. Yeah, so the Sub-Missile. Oh, my Lord, have mercy. Pray for those people. It's making me shake thinking about it. Ocean Gate. Yeah, that's what they're calling it. I was watching Down the Rabbit Hole News earlier and she was going over it. And I've been watching News Nation nonstop because it's just usually what's on my TV when I'm, just cleaning. And I can't even watch movies that like I don't even watch movies. Like I can't even watch movies when there's like a scene about somebody like about getting ready to like, pass away, like getting like unalived, or if there's like a scene that's going to make me uncomfortable to watch, like if someone's going to get in trouble, like I can't watch that kind of stuff. So this is really, it's tearing me up. Oh, thank you, Truth and Justice Matters. And I love that name. Yeah, they said they'll probably freeze to death. Yes. And they can't even sit down. They're not sitting. Like, there's no seats in the damn thing. And it's a controlled with a gaming controller. Oh, my Lord, have mercy. When they showed that, and then they showed that they bought the lights at some, like, light warehouse. Like, it's like, what? So there's 5 people. They're crammed inside this tin can. There's 2 people that are working the ship or submissile. And then the rest of them bought their tickets to go on the submissile for $250,000. One of the guys that's on there is the guy that they're talking about the most. It's the billionaire gentleman. He's, I guess, been to the North Pole, South Pole. He's been to like outer space before. This is just like another thing he wanted to check off his bucket list, I guess. Personally, you couldn't pay me $250,000 to get in that thing. No way in hell. But if they're the ones that are making the noise, because that's the newest thing. So the submissile went down an hour, 45 minutes after it goes down. No one hears from them. That's when they lose communication. So either something happened there, like other than just losing communication. But you would think now that we're hearing these banging going on, I don't think it's a whale. I think they would know like that's a whale or that's some sort of animal. But we don't even know what's in like 90% of our ocean. So sign me out. I would never. See, Teresa, I don't even want to go on a cruise now. I don't want to go on a cruise. I told Vincent I'm not. No, I don't even want to be on a cruise ship now. I don't want to be in the water. Because now I know why he's scared of the ocean. There are seats. I heard that there wasn't seats from a passenger that went down before. He said that there wasn't seats, but it could have been on their vessel. Because he said theirs was smaller, the vessel that he went on. He was a news anchor. And they got stuck in one of the propellers of the Titanic when they went down. The ocean is your friend. No, Diana, not to me and my bathing suits. There are seats in this one. Okay, there's no seats, Stevie says. So now I'm wondering. Because I heard that there weren't seats and you had to sit in there all funky like. But I can't imagine. I'm praying for the family that's above. I mean, I just wanted to talk about it for a minute before we got started because, my Lord. It's about this, the size of a minivan, TLC, yeah. 5 people. Think about the people like, okay, so they don't have food, probably, drinks, medication. Where are they going to the bathroom? I mean, none of that matters, but it's like those things are going to make somebody start getting anxious-y. And I just hope that everyone can just calm everybody down and everyone's just calm. I hope that I hope they still think they're just on their way to the Titanic. I know it's been 3 days. There's no way, but I would have to have that hope. I would have to have that hope. For the 19-year-old, he went down there with his dad, I think. Yeah, there's 10 hours left. I thought about going live right at the 10-hour mark. Like, I think it's like 6 in the morning though, but it's just, what do they do then? Do they just call off? I mean, I guess after a certain amount of days. It's just so sad. Oh, so you don't do what? Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I go in a pool and I don't even go under the water to hold my nose. Like, I can't even breathe underwater. Oh, and I saw earlier, sorry, I think it was Mary Beth. Was it Mary Beth? Thank you for gifting a membership. I meant to tell you that earlier. Thank you. They'll call it off tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Hi, Jack. Man. There are no seats in the tin can. Oh, Edith said. Yeah, they could be hung up on the debris of the Titanic. Like, I love everything about the story of the Titanic. I mean, I remember when that movie came out in theaters, I was all about life. Like me and my friend went, 3 of us went. you couldn't even sit in the movie theater together. We had to sit, me and my friend, and then our other friend had to sit like somewhere else because it was so packed. And then ever since then, I went to like the exhibit at, what's it called? There's a place in Columbus. I'll think of it. But they had a big exhibit. I love it. I love the history about it. I love looking at underwater pictures, but never in a day would you catch me going down there. You can't even swim down there. Like, they said that it was, it's pretty much like two of the Grand Canyons. You would have to swim up. And they'd have to get out of it. They can't even get out of it because they're like bolted in. Yes, Diana, you need to watch it. There was a clip. I'll have to. It was on down the rabbit hole news. It was on her live today. She played a clip, and it was a guy that had went down there before, and that's where they got stuck in the propeller, and it showed you a picture of the propeller. And no way. Yeah, the Titanic itself. Yeah, or just sitting on the ocean floor, or the really bad they could implode. Oh, I did. Oh, honey, I did. Yeah, Rhonda, we covered that. We covered that on, let's see here. We covered that. And I'm actually waiting. I did a FOIA request for the 911 call, and then it came back to me because my attachment didn't send. So now I have to resend it all tomorrow. But we did go over that case. We covered it. Chad Duerman, it's about an hour from me. So I was trying to see what was going on with the story because I was going to try to go down there. And I was looking at some. Oh, I was going to tell you when we did the live. I was like, I was looking for something for you. Let me see. We did the live on the 18th. So if you want to check it out, yeah, it was a 2-hour live. We went over everything. So. No one news reported they had a guy who went to Titanic and he was pale as ghost. Yes, yeah, that's the one. That was the one that was like about yeah. He was like, He went down there. He was like the first anchor. Not me, not me. You're going to Taylor's concert, Sarah? Okay, who are we kicking out of the crew so I can go? I am a total Swiftie. Listen to her every morning when I'm cleaning. Every morning. It's bad. So anyway, now that I had to get that out of my system about the submissile, and I'm gonna keep my eye peeled for any updates. I told Vincent if he hears anything at all, let me know, and we'll if there's a break or something, like they find them or anything of that nature, let me know in the chat too. If you hear anything, we'll pop it on because, that's breaking news and we want to make sure that we would cover that. I really wish I would have I was going to do a live this afternoon about it, but then I saw someone else was live doing one. So I didn't want to, take time from her. So that's what I heard, Mandy J, that the CEO is in the sub, but I don't know exactly if that's true. I think that's who it is though. Yeah, he's the one driving. I heard that it has small propel. Okay, so a submarine has the difference between a submarine and a submissile. A submarine has a large propeller thing or whatever, and it shoots you out into the water, and then you go down and you drive it like a car, and you're able to drive. Well, in a submissile, they have smaller propellers that are really small, he said. And then they have to actually take you out to the actual crash site of the Titanic, and then they drop you down. And they pull you down. And it's just crazy. Actually, you know what? When they were putting them in the water the other day, I swear Vincent said, "Are they not attaching a rope to them?" I swear he said that. I'm about to ask him. Okay. So anyway, we'll get to Idaho 4. Let me grab my drink really quick. Thank you for being here. I saw that, Teresa, the WFLA has been playing it. I'm going to have to be watching it over there. And Mandy Joe, if you're at work, just put us in your ear. Just put an earbud in. That's what I would do. I used to do that when I worked. I used to like play music in my earphone. And then if people were to come in the store, then I would, you know, just act like I was taking it out, like just itching my ear. Okay, yeah, claustrophobia. Yeah, yeah. I would be the one that would be panicking right now. I'm sorry to say, I would. I would hope there would be like Vincent would be there to calm me. But I mean, I can't believe the people that are down there. Like I mean, they're suffering. They've got to be. They've just got to be. So we're going to try to go on to even, I guess, a brighter note, but not really, it's still a true crime case. But we'll go ahead and we're going to watch part 3 of the ABC podcast. I am still working on the PCA, so we've been going over the PCA, and I've been trying to do like visuals for you guys. So we did the first half, which was easy to do those visuals, but now it's getting harder. And so it's going to probably take me until this weekend. But in the meantime, we do have other things that we could watch and we can go over. You heard that the 19-year-old didn't want to go. Oh, God. I cannot believe it's called Ocean Gate. Oh, yeah. I wasn't surprised when they called it that. We should do a live on it tomorrow. We should. I didn't know if we'd all be this many people would be interested in it. So we'll have to do one. Maybe we can do a morning live or something. But this podcast just came out today. And it got me thinking about how they were able to know the details that they know within this podcast. Seeing as how all these new details just came out last night in the paperwork, in the court filings. And we didn't get the court filings until like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Unless someone saw them before then. I mean, that's when I saw them anyway. So in this podcast, you're going to hear things that you never heard before, and it's not going to be any of that, my sources. It won't be any of my sources. It's going to be firsthand accounts, which I love firsthand accounts. Those are my favorite. So if you missed last night's live, or if you haven't heard of the new documents yet that came out explaining just how police obtained Bryan Kohberger's DNA, where it was tested, or how they got a direct match, then you're going to find out today. We're gonna recap. So we're gonna do a small video that Court TV came out with, and then we'll get into the podcast. But mark my words now, guys. The new thing for creators, the new for the people that are not, they just don't want to see Bryan guilty. I don't know what it is. They don't want to see that the police got the right man. So those people, they're going to come. This is what they're going to come up with next. This is what it's going to be. They're going to say, yeah, Bryan was there, but he didn't do it alone. So when you hear that, tell people, say, so we're supposed to believe that Bryan, the criminology student, left his DNA, but Joe Blow, his accomplice, did it. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I could see it. I can see it coming a mile away. I should do a video on it before anyone even does a video, just so I could say, this is what they're going to say. That's why I'm doing it now. I'm marking the proof. I'm making my proof. What food do they have there? I don't even know if they have food. Like, what would you take? I mean, if you're only, how long were they? Does anyone know before we get started how long they were supposed to be down there? Like, how long in total? Because wasn't it supposed to be just like a day trip? Like, to me, it was like a day trip. Go down for a couple hours, you come back up. So I don't think that they had any. That's a possibility. I think that's what's going to come out. But I have been seeing some people going, like, shifting, their opinions and stuff. So whichever is good, But we love all opinions here. We do. Oh, there's supposed to be 8 to 10 hours total. Yeah, but there's not that much food for 8 hours. I mean, and they're not, I mean, I don't know. They took a sandwich and a water. Oh my God. A sandwich and a water. And you can't even get out of the damn boat. Not like salt water is going to do anything, or the depths are going to do anything for you anyway, but I don't know. I mean, like, there's just something about the Titanic. We should just leave it alone. Leave it alone. Like that's there for a reason. All the way down there for a reason. Somebody did say though, before we get started, because I keep saying that, a ticket on the Titanic, a first class ticket back, when, well, for the Titanic was $150. So I'm like, wow. But anyways, yeah. So we got some answers last night in the court filings. If you didn't see the live last night, don't worry. We'll go over it all again tonight, and they're gonna go over in this podcast. And that's how I don't know how they got the information so fast and then made the podcast and got it out. Because I'm like, wait a minute, it's just very weird. But let's see. So we did learn some new things. We learned how they got Bryan Kohberger's DNA, why they're not using the genealogical DNA profile anymore, because they got a direct match from the knife sheath to Bryan Kohberger's buccal swab, which was done on the inside of his mouth. And that was done with, I think it was 5.37 octillion certainty that it was nobody other than Bryan Kohberger. So, with that being said, I think that we heard a lot last night. We also heard about the knife sheath that was found partially underneath Maddie Mogen. And I actually want to ask you guys a couple questions before we get to the video. So when I was reading over the court documents last night, it said, let me share this with you, because it was the way that they said it. Now I'm doubting myself. Well, why can't I pull it up? Okay. We'll just go in the Idaho site. I have it marked, but I guess it wants to be not like letting me do that. I'm going to bring up the paper really quick, because the way they word it, I want to get your guys' opinion on what you guys think it means. Because it says on here that it's like partially, like, or is underneath the, maybe it's underneath the comforter as well as Maddie. So when I read you guys this document last night, let me get it up here for you. Okay, so under the factual background, I can't highlight it, but it says on here, the sheath was face down and partially under both Madison's body and the comforter on the bed. So when I read that last night, I was thinking like she was laying on top. Okay, so the comforter's here, the knife, and then Maddie. So, the knife is in between the comforter and in between Maddie. But when I'm looking at this, now I'm like, the sheath, it says under both Madison's body and the comforter. So do you think that it was underneath of both? Like underneath the comforter and Maddie? But he said he could see it from the doorway. So that wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right. No, I just answered my own question. Because in the PCA, he says when viewed from the doorway, right? Yeah, so when viewed from the door. So that means that it was in between. I am right. I was right last night when I said it. In between Maddie, the knife, and then the comforter. Did I watch Drip Drop? No, I don't watch Drip Drop. Oh, you're probably talking to someone else, Lisa. Oh, someone saying he's DoorDash. No, he is not DoorDash. And if he was, you're caught. You have to have financial records to be in DoorDash. You have to have all of that stuff. They track your mileage. They track your phone, where you drop your food off when you open the app. If he was DoorDash, the Jack in the Box would have caught him on all of those surveillance cameras they have when he pulled up to grab the food. So yeah, there's plenty of reasons why he's not the DoorDash delivery driver, in my opinion. And it only took the officers 47 days to apprehend Bryan Kohberger. I think that's pretty good. So now I have a question for y'all, and you're going to think I'm nuts, but I'm going to show you this picture, and I need you to tell me if Bryan is right-handed or left-handed. Because last night in the live, somebody asked me if Bryan was right or left-handed, and I said I thought that he was right-handed because I saw a picture of him writing. So I'm going to show you the picture, but then I thought, well, what if it's a mirror image? But I don't really know a whole lot about mirror images. So you guys tell me what you think. Because it's in his right hand. But in the podcast, she says that he signs with his left hand. So that's why I was just really confused. And this is the only picture that I have of him signing anything. That's true. Yeah, little mama. Yeah, it could have been under Maddie and the comforter, but enough to be sticking out. You think he's right-handed? Me too. I think he just writes a little, and I think Vincent took offense to this, and I didn't mean for him to, but left-handed people, and he explained it to me today, Vincent did. He explained it perfect. He writes almost like he's a lefty, where it's more into himself, writing like this. And when I said that to Vincent, he said, well, Tanya, that's because we've always had to be in a right-handed desk when we were little, or we had the binders, the books with the binders, and you had to go around it. It's not made for left-handed people. So then that's why I was like, is he? But I think he just writes a little, just different. I'm not funny or weird or anything. It's just the way he writes. It just looks like he's left-handed. So I wanted to ask you guys because I'm not losing my shit. So I wanted to get into this really quick before we get into the podcast. Oh my gosh, this podcast is really, 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 really good. So, and I have pictures. So since it's a podcast, it's not a video. I downloaded, uploaded, whatever you call it. I've been working today, guys. I got pictures for us to look through, look at, so that way you guys will be all good to go too. So basically this is just going to summarize what we went over last night. It's just what the court documents revealed, the ones that we went over last night. If you haven't heard about it yet, then you'll be caught up.
With some brand new details in the Idaho college student murders.
Don't forget to like the video,
killer
please.
Bryan Kohberger is a statistical match to DNA recovered from the knife sheath found at the crime scene. Now, that is according to some newly released court documents. A protective order was filed last week that expands on the initial probable cause affidavit. Now, we already knew that Kohberger's father was linked to the knife sheath. The FBI further compared DNA from the sheath to a cheek swab of the defendant and confirmed that it was a match. Now, these revelations come from a protective order filed by the state seeking to protect the identities of Bryan Kohberger's extended family. Many have said that DNA is what will convict the killer. The Gonsalves family attorney Shannon Gray previously spoke to Court TV about the importance of the knife sheath to this case. Take a look.
That was a pretty lengthy probable cause affidavit. It's one of the lengthiest ones I've ever seen. But I think they were very, they wanted to provide as much information as they could to establish probable cause, and it laid out a little bit of the state's case, how they might proceed on the case at trial. But there's a lot of still other circumstantial evidence that will be gathered between now and the trial date. You still have 3 other crime scenes. You have his apartment, you have the car, you have his parents' house that all need to be processed for evidence of the crime, and then any other evidence that comes in between now and then. But the probable cause, I thought that, it was well done. I think the biggest piece of evidence that jumps out to you is the DNA evidence on the sheet. I think that's the one piece of evidence that will be hard to explain as a defense attorney on the case. So I think that's the biggest piece of evidence.
Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this, and I have a prop, and I can't underscore enough just how heavy this is. I have a K-bar knife here. This is the type of weapon that was used to kill those 4 beautiful college students. This is the sheath, and it was on this snap of the sheath. this snap right here that was swabbed, and that's where that little bit of a DNA profile began. So that's where it all started. Now, investigators didn't know whose DNA it was on the snap. They just were able to get somebody's DNA here. And as they continued investigating, they honed in on Bryan Kohberger. That is why investigators started going through the trash at the family home. And in going through the trash, they were able to get something to compare to that profile from the snap, right? And in doing that, they knew it was the son of Papa Kohberger, right? That's what they knew from this. It was the offspring of Papa Kohberger was found right here on this little teeny tiny snap of this knife sheath left behind. The knife was not. I'm going to show you how big the knife is too. Wait till I pull this out and you see this. This is so heavy. I mean, look at this. Look how large this is. This turns my stomach. And this isn't the first time I've held this. I've held this previously in our newsroom. It's very heavy. The handle's very heavy. When you think about this being the murder weapon used, it turns your stomach. The sheer brutality of these homicides, each of those young people being stabbed multiple times with this K-bar knife. And I'm going to put it back in the sheath here as I continue talking and button up that snap. So once they knew it was Papa Kohberger's sons or offspring's DNA on this, that was a really great starting point. And that was in the original affidavit that we all read and were looking at. Police were able to take it a step further. There was a court order, and Bryan Kohberger had what's called a buccal swab taken. If you hear that, it's a cheek swab. They stick what looks like a Q-tip into the cheek, swab it around, and they're able to take that. Once he was arrested, they're able to do that per court order. And they did DNA test number 2. And this is why this is so important. With test number 2, they were able to confirm Kohberger's DNA with what was on this snap, and then be able to come to the conclusion that, yes, it's Bryan Kohberger's DNA that's on that knife sheath that was left behind at the crime scene. This is huge. Let's talk more about this. I have 2 excellent attorneys on the program with me this morning in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, criminal defense attorney and former prosecuting attorney Sue Ann Robinson, and in East Lansing, Michigan, trial attorney Jamie White. Wonderful to see you both. Thanks so much for coming on the program today. For any doubters out there who were saying, oh, I don't know about this DNA, I don't know if it's Bryan Kohberger's, I don't understand this, the offspring of Dad, this second DNA test seems to put to bed all of those doubts, does it not? Sue Ann Robinson, I want to go to you first, please. Weigh in and tell us your thoughts on this new development, please.
I think this is a very important development because obviously it places him at the scene and it places his DNA on the sheath, which is arguably to be where the murder weapon was held. And so I think the most important thing for the state to show is that the initial DNA test is part of the steps in that process. Part of the process is initially testing the DNA, then doing the comparison, as you discussed, with the buccal swab from his cheek. And then once that was compared, then that's how they came to the conclusion that Bryan Kohberger was the person whose DNA was found. But I think it's going to be important for the prosecution to explain those steps to the jury. I think that the jury is always hungry and for DNA evidence, for scientific evidence, for evidence that they can look to say, this isn't testimony, this isn't something that we're speculating on, this is not something that we're having to apply our common sense to necessarily. This is a hard, concrete fact.
Right, Sue Ann, well said. It makes sense when you think about it, because police get the profile initially from the snap, and then they go to the house where Kohberger is. He's their guy. They like him for these homicides, so they start digging through the trash. Well, that trash is shared. It's shared between Dad, Mom, and Kohberger, so they're getting something from that trash, not sure who it belongs to, somebody in the family. It makes sense that they would be able to say, offspring of Dad, that's whose DNA this is, and then confirm it by the cheek swab, the buccal swab with Kohberger once he was locked up and charged charged and then say, okay, yeah, for sure, that's what was left behind. I'm going to pull this giant knife out. I mean, it is so heavy to hold. I can't imagine a homicide being committed with this knife, holding this. I mean, it's just incredible to me. And those poor young people stabbed to death. This left behind. Why was this left behind? I want to go back to the affidavit. It says, quote, the knife sheath was found on a bed next to the bodies of Madison and Kaylee. Remember, these were the roommates. They were sharing the bed together that night. Best of friends. The sheath was found face down, partially under both Madison's body and the comforter on the bed. Why was this left? This is a big thing to leave behind. Look how huge this is. Attorney Jamie White, let me go to you on this one. This is one of those stunning things. Somebody goes to do 4 homicides and they leave behind this with DNA. Do you think that's going to be a tough fact for prosecutors, or perhaps a helpful fact because we know we got the DNA on this?
Yeah, so I think that, what we're going to hear from the defense is that they're going to concede the DNA evidence. I agree with Sue Ann that there's going to be some challenges to the testing processes. We see this all the time, but the evidence is overwhelming. And, the science is so good now that even if it is a relative, it's very easy to distinguish who the actual contributor was. As far as the defense is concerned, their only reasonable, logical play at this point is to concede that the DNA was on the sheath, but in some fashion it came into the possession of some other individual. I don't believe that's a reasonable or rational explanation, but I think that's the only place they can go. As far as why the sheath is there, the thing that troubled me about this case early on, Julie, was 4 people murdered it appears to be without much of a defense put up by anybody. And then there's a lot of reasons for that, but at the end of the day, you have to believe that somebody did something out of fear and ultimately led Mr. Kohberger to leave that sheath behind, because to your point, no reasonable person would do that, in light of the fact that this was clearly a planned out home invasion, homicide, and other potential crimes.
Right, Jamie. Take it a step further. I keep thinking about this guy that we know was wearing gloves when he's back in PA, wearing gloves when he's touching his own trash. I guess the joke's on you, Bryan Kohberger, because they got your DNA and matched it to this knife at the crime scene. But I mean, he was being so careful wearing the gloves around, but leaving this behind. This is it's one of those things I wonder, Sue Ann, was this guy so cocky that he might have done this on purpose, thinking I'll never get caught? Everybody says he was arrogant. He thought he knew it all. He was that kid in class. I'm sure you and Jamie had that person in class, in your law school class, who would think they knew the answers better than everybody, think they were smarter than everybody. They said that was this guy. And if he did do what police say he did and plotted this out and methodically was stalking these people and following them and going to the house and had made 12 previous trips to the house, you'd think he'd be more careful. Sue Ann, last word here, please.
Yeah, I think there's always the theory and there's always the plan, and then there's actually in the heat of the moment when it's happening. To me, him leaving behind the sheath, or the idea that he left it behind, shows that obviously, as Jamie said, there was a moment where there was a chaotic scene where it wasn't probably going according to the way he planned and he lost track of the sheath. That's what it would demonstrate to me. If I was a juror, I would say there was obviously a moment or a span of time where there was a chaotic issue that took him off of his plan or caused him to leave it behind because things weren't going according to how he probably planned them out.
Mm-hmm. Right, Sue Ann, right. And I wonder also if he wore gloves when he allegedly committed these homicides. Police say he murdered these 4 people. I wonder if he had gloves on at the time, because the only place on this little tiny snap, which makes me wonder the way in which this was handled prior to it going to that home that night. And I have so many questions still, but this is a big piece of information coming out today with investigators doing that second test to confirm that it is in fact the DNA of Bryan Kohberger found on the snap on the knife sheath. It looks just like this K-bar knife I've got in my hands.
Okay, so yeah, I know a lot of people are coming out and they're like, oh, that's not new. That we knew there was DNA on or Bryan's DNA was at the scene. But what we didn't know beforehand was we didn't know that it was a direct hit. We were wondering, people have been speculating, and a lot of creators have come out and was like, Bryan's innocent because they're not going to use the genealogical DNA in trial. So what do they have on him? They don't have anything on him. Well, guys, that's because they went back and they got a direct match. Directly from the guy's mouth to the knife sheath. No father needed, no brothers, uncles, cousins, none of that. But the defense is trying to say that they want to know all the names of everybody that was listed. And, well, they can't do that. There's laws against that. So, and I did want to say one more thing, and I don't understand this either. One more thing about the trial is Bryan Kohberger wants to have like a speedy trial, but then he wants a stay of the proceedings. So it's like, well, when do you have to give up your right to a speedy trial then? I wonder. You never know. But I think that officers have done a great job. I think that they've really done a good job in this. And I think that it's hard for people, I guess, to realize that there are officers out there that can do their job, I guess. I don't know. Because, like, a lot of people have been, putting a lot of this on the Moscow police. Well, Moscow, as soon as this crime happened and they walked in there, they backed out and they called Idaho State Police. Then they called the FBI. So they've had help ever since day one. So. And the percentage of it could be somebody else was 5.37 octillion. Or the amount of it being somebody else. It would be that many people. You would need. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. So like I said, this is going to be the podcast I'm going to play. This is the third episode. We watched the first one on a live. The second one we watched on a live, and then I did like a pre-recorded of that one. So it's available under the videos. And then this is episode 3. If you watch, I think it's under this. I think it's under this one. I did put parts 1 and parts 2. So that way you could watch them if you wanted to. Because it is really good. It's a good podcast. So like I said, I'm going to have pictures that I'll show as the podcast is playing. So if you guys are like, this is not a video, that's why. So that's why. And I forgot to put my banner up tonight. Look at that. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that way we can get on to the podcast. I'm not going to interrupt it too much. I'm just going to pause it here and there whenever we hear something that's like super new, because there are a lot of new things in this podcast that we have not heard before. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. And thank you guys for being here again. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and just being here. I really appreciate it.
Any tragic event hits close to home for us. When you're dealing with students, we all have children. We all are dads, so we understand.
That makes it a little harder.
Yeah.
Moscow Police Chief James Fry was leading the investigation into the most heinous crime his city had ever seen. The brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students. The pressure was on to find out who killed Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. In late November, just over 2 weeks after their deaths, Chief Fry sat down with me for his first network TV interview. It was emotional.
You want a tissue?
Yeah.
Chief Fry has lived in Moscow most of his life. So have many of the other officers working this case. A lot of them also went to the University of Idaho. They love this town. They've raised their kids here. Chief Fry has college-age kids of his own.
We love being the protectors. The community is who we are, and we are part of the community.
But nearly 3 weeks after the murders, police hadn't identified a suspect. They seemed no closer to solving the case. Residents were on edge and impatient. As we mentioned in the last episode, some doubted the Moscow PD would be able to solve the case.
It must be hard to feel so close to this and to also hear public criticism at the same time.
Yeah, we understand. Everybody wants to know, everybody wants answers, and we understand that. We want to give those answers as soon as we can. But there's some integrity that we have to withhold in this case. And that starts from the very onset of the case all the way through prosecution. We want to ensure that, and we owe that to our community. We're going to continue to provide safety for our community. We're going to continue to work hard on this case. We're not going to let our guard down. We're going to continue. We owe it to them.
The Moscow Police Department is small, only 35 people. They're more accustomed to responding to reports of animals on the loose and stolen bikes. There hadn't been a homicide in Moscow in 7 years. And for the officers who first walked into that King Road house, it was horrific. These were the same officers who'd responded to noise complaints about the house. They'd talked to and interacted with these students before, and now they were investigating their murders.
What you see sometimes shocks the conscience. And we're taking care of our officers. You know, we brought in counselors, but we're going further than that. We took the counseling to the families as well, wives, kids, because we know that if we can build a strong family unit, that helps us serve our community even better.
The one source of comfort Chief Fry could offer his officers, the victims' families, and the community of Moscow would be putting the person responsible for these deaths behind bars. Could his small department, in the glare of the national spotlight, hunt down a killer? I'm Kayna Whitworth, a correspondent with ABC News, and I've been covering this case since the day after the 4 students' bodies were discovered in the house on King Road. Today, we're turning our attention to the police investigation into the murders. As we mentioned in the last episode, we didn't hear a lot from Moscow PD in the early days of the investigation. And all that silence, it bred fear. Fear that the killer was still out there and could hurt more people. And fear that law enforcement might not be up to the task of solving a big, high-profile case like this. But police did make an arrest 6 weeks after the murders, some 2,500 miles away from the crime scene.
The suspect accused of brutally murdering 4 University of Idaho students in November, now back in Moscow to face charges, touching down.
In this episode, we'll reconstruct how they did it. We'll talk through the evidence gathered from inside this popular home, now turned crime scene, to learn about the clues the killer left behind. And we'll follow police as they sift through thousands of crowdsourced tips and search through literal trash to identify their suspect. This is The King Road Killings, Episode 3, The Investigation. At 11:58 a.m. on November 13th, the Moscow Police Department received that mysterious 911 call that has yet to be made public. It was seeking help for an unconscious person at a house on King Road. But as soon as officers entered the house, it was clear they were dealing with something much more serious. They discovered 4 bodies, and the victims were far beyond saving. The mayor told me the officers carefully backed out of the house, closed the door, and applied for a warrant, allowing them to enter the home and begin processing it as a crime scene.
Okay, so I just wanted to let you guys, just wanted to make sure you heard that. The officers arrived on the scene. They said, hey, this is an unconscious person. These are 4 dead people in here. And they backed out and they applied for a search warrant. So doing their due diligence.
Once Chief Fry learned the severity of the situation, he said he called Idaho State Police right away, followed by the FBI. Moscow PD would remain the lead on the investigation because the killings weren't a federal crime, but the bigger agencies would lend more investigative heft to the small department. The mayor told me that initially, Moscow PD had a hard time determining what might be evidence, what might be remnants of a struggle with a killer, and what was just an untidy college house. Over the next few weeks, authorities say they sent more than 100 items to the Idaho State Crime Lab for processing. Remember, this is a 6-bedroom house where 5 college kids lived. It's also a big party house where tons of people came and went. There were fingerprints and DNA everywhere. The amount of evidence to collect and items to process within the home was staggering. The layout of the house on the hill is really important to understanding the crime scene. The 3-level home is incredibly exposed. There's no fencing. It's easy to see inside. When you're looking at the front of the house, the main entryway is decorated with a golden wreath. The door unlocks with a keypad. You open that front door, and on either side of the entryway is a bedroom, one of which was occupied by a surviving roommate on the night of November 12th. The other was empty. You go up the stairs to the 2nd floor. This is where Xana Kernodle's bedroom was. Police found her body in her room, along with the body of her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin. Down the hall, on the other side of the 2nd floor, was the other surviving roommate's bedroom. Directly outside the roommate's door, according to court documents, officers discovered a shoe print, similar to a Vans skateboarding shoe, with that distinctive diamond-shaped sole pattern. There's also another entrance on this floor, a sliding glass door that opens up to a ground-level patio. When you continue up the stairs, you'll find 2 more bedrooms. These were Kaylee and Maddie's rooms. Kaylee's dad said the bodies of both women were found in Maddie's room, on Maddie's bed. On Thursday, the 17th of November, 4 days after the murders, the coroner, Kathy Mabbitt, released her report and talked with our local affiliate, KXLY.
There's quite a bit of blood in the apartment, and, it's a pretty traumatic scene to find 4 dead college students in a residence.
The coroner also released an additional statement, saying she believed the 4 students were likely asleep when they were first attacked with an edged weapon, and that some of them showed evidence of defensive wounds. 2 weeks after the murders, on November 28th, Steve Gonzalez told me that Kaylee and Maddie were cremated and that he was in possession of both girls' urns and death certificates. Steve learned from the death certificates that his daughter's injuries were far more significant than Maddie's. And that left him with a chilling question. Was Kaylee the killer's intended victim? He worried that the other students might simply have been collateral damage.
Do you think that Kaylee specifically was targeted?
It's a fear of mine. When you have something like this happen, the last thing you want to do is hurt the other family, and you don't want to have any kind of responsibility for those people to feel like they were just casualties. And that goes for their child. If one of their children was a target, I have no ill will whatsoever. There's only one real bad person.
Steve wanted to put all of his energy into catching the person who was actually responsible for the loss of his daughter, and he was worried that police were missing some critical evidence. Authorities had been urging everybody with an outdoor camera to send in video from the night of the attacks. They made it a point of stating that anything, even something happening in the background, might be significant. But without clear direction as to exactly what they were seeking, they were flooded with tips from the community, hundreds of calls a day. Even with all those videos, Steve thought police might be missing footage of that night shot by students who might be hesitant to share their party photos or video that could get them in trouble for underage drinking or other illicit activities.
Police officers' main job in that town is to keep people from drinking and driving and to go into parties and to calm that thing down. They give a lot of warnings out. And if I got a warning and I'm scared to get kicked out of school and I got a picture that I'm about to submit and there's a bong or some kind of paraphernalia in the background and I'm there and I've got a beer, do I want to send it to the officer that let me off the hook 2 weeks ago? Not if I don't have a way to make it anonymous. So I told him, at least come out and say that. You have one goal in mind, and none of this has to do with drinking or drugs use. You guys got better things to look at.
Yeah.
You got way more pressure on you right now to worry about. Those things aren't going to be worried about for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Police took Steve's concerns to heart, and the next day, Idaho State Police spokesperson Aaron Snell did his best to let community members know their goal was to catch a killer, not bust students for partying.
We want that video and that evidence. Our goal and our venture to get that is not to reprimand anybody or to really be concerned about the activities that were taking place. We're trying to gather evidence in a homicide. That's what we're focused on, not anything else at this point in time.
But I think when you end it with at this point in time, I think even that could scare a student. What if there is a picture and there is something there, but it shows them doing something illegal? They don't want to turn that in. They don't want to face potential charges later.
Well, then let's be definitive. We are not interested in that activity. We are interested in any potential evidence for the homicide. That is our goal, to gather that information.
Weeks passed, and while police didn't name a suspect, they did tell the public who they thought wasn't involved. Their list of cleared suspects included the 2 surviving roommates, the male friend who was with Kaylee and Maddie in the Grub Truck live stream, and Kaylee's ex-boyfriend. Fall turned to winter in Moscow, and the victims' families began their first holiday season without their loved ones. It wasn't until December 7th that they received some hopeful news from law enforcement. 3.5 weeks after the murders, police finally had what appeared to be a promising lead. Moscow PD issued a bulletin that they were on the hunt for a very specific vehicle, a white Hyundai Elantra, made between 2011 and 2013. They hoped to learn if its occupant or occupants had any information in regards to the case.
The police started communicating with everyone, putting the word out via press releases, interviews. We want footage. They gave us maps of all the areas. They were trying to pull any surveillance footage from people's cameras, doorbells, whatever they could find to get footage of this white Elantra.
Lauren Patterson, the public radio reporter, remembers the community's excitement at a single concrete clue, something they could help search for.
When we heard about the white car, I feel like a lot of locals really thought, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere with this. We had something to go on. There was a tip, there was something specific.
However, the excitement over the lead was short-lived when citizens began to realize just how daunting a task it would be for police to sift through such a high volume of tips and surveillance footage. Katie, a close friend of the murder victims, recalls the frenzy.
I mean, I'm like, I've seen a trillion white little cars. And I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen a Elantra, I'm not sure. So I was like, I'm sure somebody knows. So I was like, just assuming it was going to be pretty quick after that.
This new call to action for the community brought in yet another deluge of tips, so many that police had to redirect the tip line to the FBI Global Call Center. Idaho State Police were also visible on the ground in Moscow, supporting the investigation. But like Moscow PD, they didn't share much information. It wasn't until my producer Timmy got a parking ticket on campus and chatted up an officer that we finally got permission to do a ride-along.
This town is, it's a little bit eerie here.
That's how we ended up driving through campus with Sergeant Kurt Sproat from Idaho State Police. He was working on the investigation, and on this particular day, he was on campus doing patrols at the request of the University of Idaho. On the day of our ride-along in mid-December, a month after the murders, there was a huge snowstorm. As we drove, we watched the campus become absolutely covered by a blanket of thick, wet snow.
So right now, we're driving sort of this road that kind of almost wraps around the outskirts of campus. Campus is on our left, fully secured, lights everywhere, cameras everywhere. Right to the right, this is Fraternity Row. And then right down here, so this is the hill, and then there's the murder scene, right there.
Sergeant Sproat was based in Boise, 6 hours away. But like so many in the area, he felt the statewide pain of these murders. There were memorials for these students in Boise and other places in the region. Sergeant Sproat was glad to be patrolling the campus, proud to be protecting it.
I know that, authorities have said they've received an influx in calls, really, from people that were on edge.
Yeah, I spoke to someone who lives in the area yesterday. I had made a traffic stop over by his residence, and he wanted to make sure everything was okay, and there was no reason to be of concern. And it wasn't pertinent to the investigation, but it kind of just shows the mindset of community members and students around here with what happened.
One of the questions I wanted to ask him is where he thought the killer was.
Do you think that this person has left town, or do you think this person is assimilated and is in Moscow?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that one.
Okay. But you do have an opinion?
Yes.
He didn't want to say more on camera, so we spoke privately, and he told me now it's okay if I share this conversation. I asked him, with this huge head start, and given that we're only, a few hours from the border to Canada, did he think the suspect had made a run for it and could be anywhere? He looked at me right in my eyes and said, I think he's here. God is not on his side. We're gonna get him. That really stuck with me. Just this gut feeling he had. I kept it in the back of my mind as detectives kept working the case and I kept working the story. I had no idea if the killer was in our midst or far away. It would turn out to be both.
Okay, so there's just a commercial. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through the commercial. That way we can continue to keep listening to the podcast. If you guys wouldn't mind, we have 261 people in here. We have 114 likes. If you could just smash that like button, that really does help my little channel grow. And subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you. Let me play this so I can see exactly where I need to fast forward it to.
Priceline presents Goat. It's Kaylee Quote and Trails. And travel to relax so you can SAP.
On December 29th, around 4 in the afternoon, I was at the grocery store at home in California by myself, which, as a parent of 2 young kids, is a moment you relish. As I was checking out, I got a call from a law enforcement source who said, "You need to come back to Moscow." When I said, I'll try to fly out first thing in the morning, they said, if that's the best you can do. So, my producer Timmy and I boarded a plane that night to Spokane, Washington. When I let my source know, they said something like, "That's good. You'll be here in time." We got off the plane and started the 90-minute drive to Moscow. It was late and dark. We didn't really know why we were doing this. But then I heard from a source again, still vague, but they said, tomorrow is going to be a good day. I was racking my brain. What could be happening? At that point, every little trickle of information on this case felt so huge. It could have been something kind of small, and it still would have gripped the nation. We didn't go to bed till around 7 a.m. And an hour or so later, the phone in my hotel room started ringing. ABC had a source in the FBI telling us an arrest had been made in the Poconos. The Poconos? Pennsylvania? What? It's 2,500 miles away from Moscow. What's the connection? And why would he single out this group of students? Later that morning, Chief Fry made an announcement.
Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee.
Finally, after 47 days of Moscow holding its breath, police had a suspect in custody.
Nearly 7 weeks after the stabbing deaths of 4 college students in Idaho, a break in the case that has gripped this nation. Police arresting a suspect, PhD student Bryan Kohberger. In a chilling twist, police say the alleged killer studies criminology at Washington State University. In Pullman, his apartment just over the state border, 15 minutes away from the crime scene.
Moscow PD didn't share any further details, but they were very clear that Bryan Kohberger was their only suspect. My producer Timmy and I spent the next 2 days reporting in Moscow, trying to find any connection between the suspect and the victims. Then, on New Year's Eve, we got ready to fly to Philadelphia and drove to Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, near where the suspect was arrested at his family's home. Kohberger was already being held at the Monroe County Correctional Facility. We started to see his mugshot in the press. The public was starting to put a face to the suspect authorities had been searching for. Could this be the man at the center of the story that had gripped the nation? The next day, Bryan Kohberger's extradition hearing was scheduled at the Monroe County Courthouse. As I waited outside in the rain with the rest of the media, I took a minute to record some thoughts about the scene around me. It's Tuesday afternoon, January 3rd, and media has descended on the courthouse here. There's tents everywhere. There's more than 100 media credentialed to be in this extradition hearing for Bryan Kohberger today. They have already actually brought him into the courthouse. They brought him in the back, hours before his hearing. Officers have the streets blocked off. There's the sheriff's department out here as well, some of them with long guns, sort of patrolling the area, trying to keep everything safe and calm. A lot of anticipation to see Bryan Kohberger, to see his demeanor in court. We know he's going to waive this extradition hearing, according to his lawyer. And his lawyer says, look, this is going to take 15 minutes. It's going to be quick. Nobody seems to care. Everybody wants in there. Everybody wants to see it. There was so much media present, the hearing had to be moved to a larger room. Appropriately, for the drama of it all, the new venue felt less like a courtroom and more like a gorgeous old theater. A beautiful polished wood interior with dark purple drapes framing the judge's bench. Kohberger was dressed in a bulletproof vest specifically for his walk from the prison van into the courthouse.
I just wanted to let you guys know, this part here is stuff that we haven't heard before. Coming up, it'll be about his parents, their demeanor in the courtroom, things of that nature. So I just wanted to remind you guys, really listen in, because I didn't know this about his family, and my heart goes out to them anyway, but this really made my heart go out to them even more. So it looks like we've got another 2 minutes, a minute and a half. If you guys want to smash that like button, if we get up to 200 likes, we're at let me make sure that I don't not give you enough. We are at 132 right now. If we get 200 likes within the next 2 minutes, I will go ahead and give some memberships out for you guys. So, and I just wanted to go ahead and give you guys the word that this is going to be getting good here.
would put him in plain view of the public, and authorities were concerned someone might try to harm him. The Kohberger family sat directly in front of me. His mother, Marianne, wore all black and sobbed all the way through the hearing. His sister, Melissa, sat next to her mother and tried to comfort her. Somehow, Melissa's dark eye makeup didn't smear through her own tears. Next to Melissa sat his other sister, Amanda, who looks just like him. At the end of the bench, Bryan Kohberger's father, Michael, his face dissolving into tears even before the hearing began. Throughout the proceedings, Kohberger turned around to look at his family, giving them glances and nods. He waived his right to extradition, which meant he'd return to Moscow immediately to face charges. Some legal experts believe he may have waived his right to extradition as a tactical move. If he returned to Idaho right away, the state would need to be ready to prosecute him, whereas choosing to fight extradition would have stalled matters and given the prosecution extra time to prepare their case. Kohberger bent awkwardly to sign the document with his left hand. He was still in cuffs. As he was ushered out of the courtroom, he looked back at his seated family and, clear as day, mouthed the words, "I love you." Kohberger left for Moscow the morning of January 4th on a plane so small it had to stop partway across the country to refuel. When he landed at the Pullman Moscow airport, there was a crowd gathered. The community wanted to see the man arrested for the killings. All the media was there. Again, Timmy and I had flown through the night to be in place. Our cameras ready.
This morning, Bryan Kohberger, the suspect accused of brutally murdering 4 University of Idaho students in November, now back in Moscow to face charges, touching down overnight.
On January 5th, Kohberger was set to appear in Latah County Court to officially receive the charges against him.
So that's what I wanted you guys to hear, where it said that he was a lefty. I think she might have got that wrong, because when we looked at the picture of him, he's clearly in college and he's writing with his right hand. So that's why we're like confused about that. So, and I'll bring up the picture too. I'm going to put the picture up on that banner here. I think I have it. Let me see. So we're going to go back a little bit so we can hear her again, because it's just weird that she says that. She sees him writing with his left hand.
Kohberger bent awkward. Kohberger turned around to look at his family, giving them glances and nods. He waived his right to extradition, which meant he'd return to Moscow immediately to face charges. Some legal experts believe he may have waived his right to extradition as a tactical move. If he returned to Idaho right away, the state would need to be ready to prosecute him, whereas choosing to fight extradition would have stalled matters and given the prosecution extra time to prepare their case. Kohberger bent awkwardly to sign the document with his left hand. He was still in cuffs. As he was ushered out of the courtroom, he looked back at his seated family and, clear as day, mouthed the words, "I love you." Kohberger left for Moscow the morning of January 4th on a plane so small it had to stop partway across the country to refuel. When he landed at the Pullman Moscow airport, there was a crowd gathered. The community wanted to see the man arrested for the killings. All the media was there. Again, Timmy and I had flown through the night to be in place. Our cameras ready.
This morning, Bryan Kohberger, the suspect accused of brutally murdering 4 University of Idaho students in November, now back in Moscow to face charges, touching down overnight.
On January 5th, Kohberger was set to appear in Latah County Court to officially receive the charges against him. This is a small courthouse in a small town, unaccustomed to dealing with this level of attention from the press. As we made our way into the courtroom, all the national media, all the local media, newspapers, radio, and the general public. I mean, everybody was talking and chatting in this narrow corridor. We were all crammed together, and it was really loud. And then, all of a sudden, the probable cause affidavit that lays out the case against Bryan Kohberger was posted on the court's website. You have never seen a group of media turn silent faster. Everybody pulled out their phones, racing through the document. The site crashed multiple times. Timmy and I were trying to open it on our computers. I was taking screen grabs of the affidavit on my phone to read it offline. Eventually, everyone from the press just sat down on the floor like they were cramming for a final exam. We didn't know how much time we would have to read it. We were going to be called into the courtroom at any second, and we would have to leave our computers and phones behind. I remember hearing people's audible gasps as they read the document. A typical probable cause affidavit is pretty short, just a few pages. This document was 19 pages long. It contained information from the 2 surviving roommates, details about the evidence gathered in the King Road house, and Bryan Kohberger's alleged whereabouts in the early morning hours of November 13th. I didn't make it through all 19 pages before I had to go into court, but I immediately honed in on one part in particular, that one of the surviving roommates allegedly saw a figure inside the home the night of the murders. The affidavit goes through the alleged timeline the night of the murders. We've told you some of this timeline already, how one of the surviving roommates told authorities she was woken up around 4 a.m. by what she thought was Kaylee playing with her dog. She heard a voice saying what sounded like, "There's someone here," but she couldn't quite tell who was speaking. According to the affidavit, that same roommate then opened the door to her second-floor bedroom to investigate, but didn't see anything. She opened her door again after she heard what sounded like crying coming from Xana's room, followed by a male voice saying, "It's okay. I'm going to help you." She opened her door a final time and froze in shock when she saw a male figure dressed in black, wearing a mask covering his nose and mouth. As he began walking towards her, one set of features in particular leapt out at her: his bushy eyebrows. She stood in her doorway, unable to move, and watched the figure walk toward the sliding glass door leading outside to the back patio. When finally she could move again, she shut her bedroom door and locked herself in. In addition to the roommate's story, we also learned that at 4:17 a.m., a neighbor's outdoor camera picked up distorted audio of what sounded like whimpering or maybe a voice, followed by a loud thud. I was later told by a source that police believe these were the sounds of Kaylee fighting her attacker. At the same time, a dog, possibly her dog Murphy, could be heard barking. But perhaps the biggest bombshell we learned in the affidavit is that law enforcement was able to collect DNA from the scene of the crime that they believe belongs to the killer. According to the affidavit, the Idaho State Crime Lab found DNA on a knife sheath they recovered from Maddie's bed next to her body. A law enforcement source told me later that saying the sheath was located on the bed next to Madison is a bit misleading, that it was discovered sort of underneath her, giving investigators an indication that the suspect might have lost sight of it during the attack. The sheath belonged to a military fighting knife described as a K-bar with a 7-inch blade. We talked with an expert in forensic sciences to better understand what's called touch DNA. Dr. Daniel Pedini explains how easy it is to leave your DNA behind.
The sample collected from the button of this knife sheath yielded a single source male DNA profile, meaning that it originated from a single individual. To confirm that they were the person that left their DNA on the knife sheath, they had to collect a sample directly from him or direct relatives.
And this is where the investigation started to feel more like something out of a TV show.
So what they did is they went through the trash of the family and were able to generate the DNA profile from objects that were collected from the trash. And the DNA profile was consistent from originating from the biological father of the DNA from the knife sheath.
We learned from the Pennsylvania State Police that for 4 days before his arrest, the FBI had Kohberger under surveillance at his family home in the Poconos. According to the affidavit, on December 27th, law enforcement seized some household garbage the Kohberger family had left outside for collection. They obtained DNA from the trash that they could compare with the sample from the knife sheath. And they got a match, a familial match.
Based on the results obtained in this case, we can say that there's a 99.9998% probability that the individual that left their DNA on the trash that was tested is the biological father of the individual that touched the button of the knife sheath.
I was told by a source Kohberger's DNA was later taken in jail and found to be a match to the DNA found on the sheath. Again, this is huge. It means DNA experts were able to show with a really high level of certainty that at some point, Bryan Kohberger came into contact with the knife sheath left at the crime scene. The other big piece of evidence disclosed in the affidavit, the cell phone pings from Kohberger's phone in the early morning hours of November 13th, before and after the murders took place. Authorities say they matched the location of Kohberger's cell phone to the places where a white Elantra was caught on camera, including the King Road neighborhood. According to the affidavit, Kohberger drove a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra. On one of our visits to Moscow, my producer Timmy and I retraced the 10-mile route law enforcement says Kohberger's phone traveled from Pullman, Washington, where he lived, to King Road, and the longer, out-of-the-way route they say he took back.
So if this is the route, he would have driven directly past 2 cell towers.
At 2:42 a.m. on November 13th, the night of the murders, authorities say Kohberger's phone pinged off a cell tower in Pullman near his residence. 5 minutes later, at 2:47, the phone pinged off a different tower. It was now traveling south, headed out of town.
We're at an intersection and you see the signs, Moscow one way, Pullman the other. There's another cell tower right there.
Cell phones rely on these towers for service and leave behind a data trail of where the phone has connected. A connection with a tower is referred to as a ping. The cell phone data doesn't pinpoint the exact location of a phone, but can give a rough idea of the area where the phone has been. A cell tower's range can be anywhere from under a mile in densely populated areas to about 25 miles in rural sprawls. According to the affidavit, while Kohberger's phone was on its way out of Pullman at 2:47 a.m., the phone stopped reporting to the network, indicating it was either turned off or put on airplane mode. A half hour later, security cameras in Moscow picked up a white Elantra passing the house on King Road 3 times between 3:20 a.m. and 4:04 a.m. Authorities believe the murders took place between 4 and 4:25 a.m. The Elantra was then seen passing by the house a 4th and final time around 4:20 a.m., heading south out of town. The phone didn't report to the network again until 4:48 a.m., at which point it was on State Highway 95 south of Moscow. At 5:30 a.m., the morning of the murders, Kohberger's phone traveled back to Pullman, toward his home. As we were driving, we immediately realized this is a really roundabout way to get from the crime scene back to Pullman. There's a much more direct route between the two towns that would take about 20 minutes.
It took us roughly 50 minutes to get from the murder scene back to Bryan Kohberger's apartment following the cell phone pings mentioned in the affidavit of how authorities believe he returned home.
So that's strange, and it's tough to know what to make of that route. And the fact that, according to authorities, Kohberger's cell phone seems to turn off and on. The affidavit says the suspect's phone made one more trip back to Moscow the next morning, well after the murders. Between 9:12 and 9:21 a.m., Kohberger's cell phone pinged off a tower that shares service with King Road. But the house would have still been quiet. No police or emergency medical services outside. No crowd of observers. No media reporting on the horrific crimes. Yet, it would still be 2.5 more hours before anyone would call 911. The house held a secret that authorities say only the killer knew. When I learned of his alleged final visit, I couldn't help but wonder, if police indeed had the right suspect in custody, what was he hoping to see when he went back? Had he hoped to see an active crime scene? Panic and mayhem? At the start of this investigation, the lack of information shared by Moscow PD was confusing, leading the community to wonder if detectives were in over their heads. Lauren Patterson is the local public radio reporter who was so shocked when she went down to the police station the morning after the murders and learned police weren't answering any questions. Lauren says in hindsight, it makes more sense.
A lot of times when the police are working a case like this, they're sometimes using the public information forms to throw people off, to make the suspect think that they're not onto him. They don't have anything. So it's sort of ironic that everyone thinks that the cops were a great big joke this whole time, when in reality, that can be a tactic. If you think and you're laughing to yourself that the local police force doesn't have a clue, maybe that's a chance for someone to slip up.
Looking back, what we were interpreting as struggling now looks more like a calculated strategy. Knowing what I know now, it's more understandable why Moscow PD was so tight-lipped as they conducted their search. It turns out, police believe they had a lot of information, all recounted in that affidavit. The touch DNA taken from the scene, the white Elantra caught on camera near the house the night of the murders, and the whereabouts of the suspect's cell phone before and after the murders took place. In talking with people in Moscow, I could tell right away they were breathing a collective sigh of relief knowing there had been an arrest, especially the families of the victims, like Steve Gonsalves, who never stopped working to keep the case in the headlines.
It felt like a cloud was lifted off of us. It definitely provided relief and comfort to know that things were progressing.
But then, of course, Bryan Kohberger's arrest raised all kinds of different questions. Questions like, did he know the victims? And if he is the killer, why did he target these 4 college students? The day of the arrest, Bill Thompson, the prosecuting attorney, said there was still a great deal left to learn about Kohberger. And now it was his turn to ask for the community's help.
This is not the end of this investigation. In fact, this is a new beginning. Y'all now know the name of the person who has been charged with these offenses. Please get that information out there. Please ask the public, anyone who knows about this individual, to come forward. Call the tip line. Report anything you know about him to help the investigators and eventually our office and the court system understand fully everything there is to know about not only the individual, but what happened and why.
In our next episode, we'll learn about the man police believe is the killer and hear from people who knew him.
One of the last things he said to me is, "I love you guys," meaning our friend group, "and I will always love you guys even if we stop talking one day." So at the time it was really endearing. Now it's kind of creepy.
The King Road Killings is a production of ABC Audio. If you value this reporting, please share it with others.
Okay, let me take Kohberger off the screen there. And take all that off there. I downloaded so many pictures that I didn't even get to show you guys. I'm just gonna have to keep them for another time. But they'll be coming out with another podcast. This is a series. So this was part 3 of this series. So if you guys missed part 1 and part 2, they should be linked in the description. I'm pretty sure I did that today. But if not, they're right on my playlist under the Idaho 4. And I have a separate playlist now that's going for Bryan Kohberger, and it says The Case Against Bryan Kohberger. I believe that's the playlist. So, and I have noticed that my playlist for Idaho 4 is really far down on my channel for some reason. It's kind of funky. Let me see if I can show you. Oh, thank you. Is it Carrie? Carrie T? Carrie with a C. I've always seen Carrie with a K. There was a Carrie actually came in my work and I spelled her name. It was, I spelled it right. It was C-E-R-I. That's just how I knew a friend named Carrie, and that's how she spelled it. And they were so impressed with me. And I was like, oh, look at me go. Oh, good. I got it right. I am one that's terrible with names. My name is Tanya, though, with an A. So if anyone says Tanya, I answer that too. Let me see if I can pull up my page real quick. So it was like showing that it was kind of far down. So like in my playlist, but maybe if I pull it up this way, it won't. Yeah, for some reason, it's like kind of far down in my playlist. But we have a long playlist. I don't know why it does that, but yeah, it just like shoots it down there. Oh yeah, no, I like it with just the I. It makes it probably easier to sign your name. Look at me. I'm over here. I do mine with a T, and mine only has 5. Oh, playlists are in the order of when you added them. You can rearrange it from your homepage. Oh, thanks, Stevie Irwin. I'm gonna have to do that. I didn't know that you could do that. Because I'm like, why is it all funky like that? That would probably help. Because a lot of people are like probably going, where's this girl's playlist for Idaho? And I'm over here. Oh, I can turn my camera on for a minute. And I'm over here going, oh, you know. But yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind liking the video, thanks for being here tonight. We are going to go back into, so we started the probable cause PCA. We were going back through it. We did some visuals and things like that. And like I said in the beginning of the live, it's just getting a little harder. So I downloaded Blender. It's the app that they use to do the 3D animations on the house. And it's beyond me. It's beyond me. So, with that being said, I'm not sure when the next podcast will be out, but we'll be going back to the PCA over the weekend. I did want to play for you guys the ID one, like the Amazon or ID documentary. It came out a little while ago, but I was going to play that. But then this one came out, so I was like, I want to play this one first. Because this one was just, it was good tonight. I wanted to hear, we heard things we didn't know. Well, that I didn't know anyway. I don't remember hearing about Bryan Kohberger's dad breaking down in the court. I don't remember. There was a lot of things I don't remember that was said in there. The way that the knife sheath was, which we heard about that last night, the DNA, and things of that nature. So, really, Candy? Oh, your son must be an artist to use the app Blender. Well, then how old is your son? If you tell me he's like 5, I'm going to be like, oh gosh, no. No, but it's really weird. It's really a different, I got on there and I was like, don't even know where to start. So I should probably just watch the video. It probably will tell me. I heard it's not hard. You're going to tell me your kid's like young and I'm going to be like, oh man. Because usually that's how it is. He's 24. See, I need him to help me. He's old enough to help. Get him on here. We need to blender it up. Yeah, I did download the app for my Mac and I was just like, whoa, people are, because I don't know how to do it. So it's on Amazon Prime, but I think it was on the ID channel. It's an Idaho 4 documentary. It just says the Idaho College Murders, and it says season 1. So, and there's only one episode. It's 42 minutes long, and so I thought we would play it on our next live. So, good night, Miss Teresa. I can hear the doggies. They must know. They usually give me about a couple hours. It's only an hour and 36. I'm doing good. We didn't even do a live today. I feel like we did a live earlier today. It's because I wanted to, and then I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. I didn't. That Vincent can do it. Nancy, we make Vincent do a lot of things. No, so it's kind of funny because Vincent's in IT, but he had to sit me down one time and literally like tell me like not everything. I don't know everything in IT. Like IT is such a broad thing because like with my MacBook, he's an Android user, and so he just started recently, like over the last year, learning about the cloud and stuff. So I was asking him all kinds of stuff about my MacBook, my Apple phone, like my phone, you know, and he's like, he had to sit me down, and I was like, you could do it. You could do it all. What do you mean? You could do it. What do you mean? Did you guys hear before I get off of here? If you guys watch, because you guys were true crimers, so I'm sure you guys watch Annie Elise, 10 to Life, but her channel got hijacked today by some Roboblox character. They were just posting videos on her page. It started at like 6 a.m. her time because she's in California and I'm Eastern Standard. So it was like 9 o'clock I saw it, my time, maybe 8 o'clock. And I was like, what is this jazz? And I was like, oh, that's not her, because it was a bunch. So she did get her channel back today. But I hope she didn't lose a lot of subscribers, because it took everything in me not to unsubscribe, because it was just like flooding, videos were flooding. And I love her. So I was like, I'm not going to, I didn't want to, do that. So, Carrie, so it was 10 to Life with Annie Elise. She does, like pre-recordeds a lot. She doesn't do a lot of lives, but I think it's because her channel is getting larger now, because she used to do lives. Not a problem, Rhonda. Have a good night. So yeah, her channel was hacked, and I'm just like in my head going, ooh, because I don't like, I mean, and Vincent said even the biggest of the biggest get taken down, like one time he woke up, it was Christmas Eve. So his company was supposed to be like closed down for Christmas Eve. And that's when hackers, a lot of times, they will hack your system, is like the holidays, because they know you're not there, like, or you're not fully staffed to have people like, really checking. And so he happened to wake up and he saved like his whole company. Like the whole company's information would have been like from 3 different companies that he works for. There's like 3 or 4 companies in one, it would have all been taken. And I'm like, how did you do that? Like he woke up and he fixed it really quick. And I was just like, pfft. He's like that guy, like his hand was like on the mouse or something. He knew something was up. So, no problem, Vivi. Yeah. Getting ready to go tomorrow to the orthopedic doctor. Hold on one. Oh, sorry. Anyways, but prepackaged, yeah. She's doing long crime, and I was just thinking that. I was like, Teresa, that's not good if she's getting hacked and she was signed on with long crime, because but yeah, she's a mom. She has 2 little ones and stuff, yeah. And I think she cut back on the lives because she can. I mean, you can do, okay, so like my pre-recorded videos, I make more most of the time on my pre-recordeds than I do on my lives. I do my lives really because I love you guys and I love being around you guys. And if I'm not here every day, I feel weird. I feel like I'm missing you. I'm missing you guys. I'm like, I need to be there with my people. We need to talk. We need to discuss the case or any case. So, just make sure that you follow the other cases that I cover, because, I do want to cover a lot more cases. We cover a lot of cases on this channel, but I want to cover as many as we can. So as long as you're watching them, I'll keep making them. And I do miss the pre-recordeds back on my chair. So I think what I'm going to do is figure something out till I get a movable desk. I have a movable one, but it's not very sturdy for this big heavy mic. And my camera, I've got to figure out how to use, I don't know how to use this stuff. I have never touched that camera. It's just been there since I got it. And so I need to use the stuff. So, and I'm going to get, what was that for? Oh, here in a few weeks, I set a goal for myself. And if I reach my goal, I'm getting myself a projector screen, like a little one that you can see the words. Because, your girl's blind in one eye. We love you, cheese and old stuff. I won't. And if I ever did do more pre-recordeds, I would always still be here for the lives. You know what I mean? If I ever took a break, it would just be a couple of days. I'd be back. I don't think I've ever taken more than one day off. And I think I've only taken less than as many fingers as I've had on my hand since September, the end of September of last year. So your girl's been here for a while. So she's going to be here for a while. Because I love y'all. What's going on with Alicia? No, I said it too, Jeremy. I said it too. I said that I thought it was partially underneath of Maddie. For some reason, when I pictured it, and I don't know what live it was on, but when I pictured it, for some reason, I pictured it like that. I pictured it being halfway from underneath her leg, because the cop said he could see it from the doorway. And so I was like, well, if he can see it, it has to be partly underneath of her, partly out. That's just how I pictured it. I don't know why I did. I didn't picture it beside her. I don't know. I really did think of it that way. So I'm going to make sure that I've only said what I think happened in this case. I've only said it one time, the whole story, and I don't even know what live that was on. So I'm going to try to go back and find it. If not, I'm going to try to pre-record one tomorrow. That way we can all have it, and we'll see if, what comes up. Now, I will say I do have one unpopular opinion, and that's I think that he came through the front door or left through the front door, or both. And that's just me. Little mama loves 10 to life too. See? I can't believe she was in a bad car accident. Did you know that? She was in a really bad car accident. If you notice her hairline, it has like a part that goes like this way. They had to pretty much like scalp her, and fix her. That's why she has, if you ever see her, she has like a slight, like an indent right here. And that's because of her car accident. So it made me really, I like her a little bit more, Oh, Steve, I'm so glad you said that. We are your peeps. You're our peep. Don't ever leave us. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here. It is only 10 o'clock. I think it just now got dark. Wow. Oh, I don't remember Steve saying that. I just remember him saying he didn't have to go upstairs. Do you know what interview that was on? Oh, I'd like to see that, Kelly D. Did she talk about it today? Because I know that she read through the PCA for Harmony Montgomery, but I read through it the day it came out, and I can't read through it again. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can't read through it again. I can't look. I don't want to. It's terrible. If you guys can withstand listening to that PCA, I read it well. We'll say that. I didn't miss any words. Oh, thanks, Electra. I love that name too. What the speculation was, Harley. Yeah, me too. Well, yeah. I think because that's only speculation. We don't have it in the PCA. He walked towards the door, and in my opinion, and I don't know if I have this worked out in my head yet quite right, but I think he might have been heading back towards the back stairs, to go back up to the third floor to retrieve the knife sheath after what he did downstairs. So that could be and then I think maybe he saw Dylan and he stopped right there. She shut her door and he was like, shit, I don't have time to go and get my knife sheath. and he turned around and he went back out the front door. That's why it was left open, and it was open the front in that morning between 8:30 and 9 a.m. That's what the neighbor said. That's just the neighbor, but I mean, that's the neighbor, so I don't see why they would lie. But thank you guys for being here. I have seen your name come up on our show, but you have yet to have it. Aw. Well, thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate y'all. And remember, if you hear any of the craziness out there and you have any questions, email me at TitaniumBuiltBoo. I'm going to change my email, I think, so I forgot about that. Let me write that down. Just not very profesh. But when I do, I'll make sure everyone has it. It'll probably just be like the last word of it or something. If I can change it, I don't know. So Nancy, she said that she saw him go towards the back slider, but it doesn't say that he exited or anything. Yes. Yeah, Summer, tell your brother, is his surgery tomorrow? Surgery tomorrow, right? That's so fast. He's going to do so good because from what I've heard, he sounds like he's a stubborn butt. So just make sure, don't Google nothing, no side effects, don't Google no surgery, don't Google no nothing. Google how to take care of my stubborn ass brother after surgery. And then look up how to make my stubborn ass brother stay in the hospital after surgery, because he'll probably try to get up and want to go home. You know, he's gonna do great. He's gonna do great. And you said he was at a good hospital, so that makes me feel good because hospitals freak me out. So Good Heart Hospital, that's good. We have a great hospital here at Ohio State. That's Heart Hospital. I go through there every time when I go to have my surgeries. So if anything were to ever, that scares me. That's my that's one of my things that's a kryptonite. I've never had any problems with my heart. I've had a lung collapse. I've had broken everything. I removed, you know the drill. But heart problems I've never had, and I'm praying. But he's gonna be feeling good. They're gonna have him knocked out. He'll wake up. He'll be like, what happened? What's going on? He'll probably say some funny stuff, so make sure you're recording him when he wakes up. Because usually they get usually you're really funny, or either way you're funny. Either you're like super funny, like laughy, or you're pissed and you just want to go home. But either way, it's pretty comedic. So I'll be thinking of you guys. I'll be thinking, of you and your brother, Summer. And thank you guys for joining me tonight on this live. Don't forget to like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel, all that fun stuff. And I will see you guys all back here tomorrow evening. Nope, we haven't heard anything. We are freaking out, Janet, about the sub. We talked about it in the beginning of the live, and I haven't heard anything, and Vincent hasn't said anything about it. So I'm assuming we don't have any updates. Oh, man, this is scary stuff. That's... oh my God, Janet, I could talk about this all night. It's just really scary. I'm probably going to come back on in the morning if we don't hear anything, because I know that it's like 6 o'clock is supposed to be like, I think that around 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock. I'm not sure exactly on the time. I was trying to hurry and count before I got on the live, but it was 10 or 11 hours when we started the live. So I don't know. I'm praying for those people. Like, I hope they find them. This is like the worst video game or like movie that I feel like we're watching this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And then people online are saying like the cruelest things about these people, like just talking about, oh, I can't believe they threw their money away on that, and look what happened to them. That they're, that's what they get for like throwing all their money down the drain and doing that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, what? When did we become a jealous society that much? Like that. To where you're jealous of somebody that's stuck in a tin can right now, 12,500 feet below the sea level, or below, yeah. You can't dive in those depths. You can't dive. And oh my God. And then I don't know if you saw the video, but there's a video, I think it was CNN. CNN or Fox News did an interview with one of the guys that was on the last voyage down there. And I said this earlier in the live, they got stuck in one of the propellers, and it showed you the video of the propeller. Oh, Lord have mercy, that's a big ship. Still, to this day, oh my, I guess it's giving me the willies, y'all, just thinking about it. And it's pitch black. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be incoherent and in pitch black, and it's not fun. Saw it on Fox. Okay, Nina said it was on Fox. Okay, I watched it on another live, and I was telling everyone earlier about the live, and then I couldn't remember exactly where I saw it. I don't want to go in the ocean anymore, Janet. I don't even want to go to California now. And just give me I don't want to be near the ocean. I don't want to be on a cruise. I wanted to go on a cruise. Not now. Nope. No. I'm not going on a boat in the middle of the ocean. Like the Titanic. No. I'm just so scared for like anything now. I'm just, woo. But man. But I'm gonna go ahead and jump off of here. But yeah, pray for Summer's brother. Summer, what's your brother's name? I don't even know if she's still on here. I didn't even ask her what her brother's dang name was. But I bet he's a gentleman too. But I bet you, she said he was stubborn. So y'all come to the mountains. Some of us live in the mountains. I think Summer lives. Well, I don't know if she lives in the mountains, but she lives in South Carolina. I know the mountains are in North Carolina actually. So I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here. I don't have any mountains where I live. We go out to California to see mountains. So, but I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you on the next live. Bye, guys.